This is the Express Tower. The bottom level. The bottom level of this tower was really designed for hydraulic lift motor rooms and safety machinery, so you have to go up some stairs to get to rooms. This old Express control panel has been overlaid with a DMG control panel for testing purposes.
So this is...
We've got some MK industrial plugs, and this is a Wilex switch. I'm not entirely sure why they'd want to have as little window surface as possible. It's a Shaw window frame. I guess maybe, are they trying to keep it insulated in here so it's a constant temperature? That's a bit hard.
Okay, let's go, Ben.
going up.
Is that where we're getting the roof?
Yep.
Okay. Just wait.
We've got a test DMG car station. This looks like phone does a fitting. This is sort of the original car station with Express third generation buttons.
So this is just testing out different panels in this particular lift, or?
This was refurbished recently, so that's a panel from a company called International Lift Equipment.
This one?
Yeah, so they're showing off their buttons, they're showing off the screen, they're showing off their steel work, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
This video screen as well, it does work. It's connected to the internet, so you can download content. If you've got council blocks with you know, these screens in, they can just distribute it once and it gets propagated out to all the different buildings.
That is the view of construction areas, industrial.
Oh my gosh. This is absolutely
That's
stunning.
That
Let me go and take myself.
Has anyone ever come up here just to watch the rugby?
Yeah, I have.
That's the
Because
rugby
it moves around in the
stadium.
wind. So
Oh, the tower?
Yeah, you can get seasick.
Oh gosh.
If it's windy, it does move around a lot.
So you know where those white building blocks are? And then if you follow yourself back there, can you see that red van?
Yes.
Yeah, there's a building
This is
just
the
to the right.
motor. It's got basically you've got cables connected.
High speed lift.
Yeah.
And that big lump there is the motor. The
Yeah.
ropes are off at the moment because what we've got to do is split the motor in half and rewind the windings on the stator. So you've got a rotor and a stator on a motor, as I'm sure you know, and the windings on the stator are burnt because, well, just you can argue all day long about why they've got burnt. But so we've got the ropes off. We had the ropes off during the week, and on Wednesday of next week we've got someone coming down, and we're going to help them split the motor in half, and with a bit of luck, get some of it in the lift and down to the bottom so it can go off and be rewound. This one is rope 2-to-1.
Yeah.
So typically lifts are roped 1-to-1, which means that for every revolution of the sheath on the motor, it moves by the circumference of the sheath up the shaft.
Yeah.
On this one, for every turn of the sheath on the motor, it moves by half the circumference of the sheath because of the mechanical advantage 2-to-1.
Yeah.
The reason for that is that you can move a bigger load with a smaller motor, but at a lower speed.
Yes.
So that's what we got here. It's a funny motor. That's why we got a transformer in the corner, because the voltage for the motor isn't standard UK voltage. It's an American motor from Otis. And what you've got there is the safety equipment.
Yeah.
So that's attached to the lift car, and as the lift car moves, that wheel spins. If the car goes faster than it should, the wheel spins faster and faster, and eventually it'll throw out some dogs, which will pull in the safety gear and stop it.
Yeah.
So this is the rope terminations. So this is where the ropes come back up from the lift car and get bolted in here, and the springs are to take some of the vibration out. What you've got here is the control system. So it's a modern control system. The old ones were all relays and timers and all sorts of weird and wonderful stuff. This is a microprocessor based controller. So it's all done in computer code to control the lift.
Yeah.
Although there are safety features still built in to the panel that aren't strictly controlled by the microprocessor. In case it has a bit of a brain fart, then things will still stop the lift before it does anything horrible.
Interesting.
Alright,
Isn't it?
so that's what we got. This one's going to be used by an American company to test a new type of drive. On the lift you've got the control system and the motor, and in between the two you've got a drive. And the drive takes 3-phase AC in, so 415 volts, converts it to 600 volts DC, and then to control the motor, the drive chops up voltage to control the motor. What's that, mate?
Can't log into the car machine.
Alright, can you just look after these guys?
To the 19th floor.
Wow, this is where they go out.
I'm so proud of anyone of saving coffee.
Is this like the final briefing room before they go over the edge?
Well, what we've got 4 abseil points. These are the 2 highest, this one, and then the one we're going off today is actually on this roof here.
Right.
And we generally brief them wherever they are. So if they're off this one, we brief them here. At the moment, they're being briefed up.
I was told about this. Where's the Christmas tree?
Frame of lights.
Oh. Okay.
See, right.
I.
It's on at the moment. It's not on at the moment, but it will come on this evening. 4 o'clock. It's really quite bright.
So the Christmas tree's going to light up today,
Yeah.
and that's the first time it's lighting
No.
up. Okay.
No, it's been on a couple of days now.
Ed was talking about how if you stay up here a long time, you get a
So, bit of luck, we might get it to move. Who knows?
So this is, yeah, we're just waiting for someone to go up the lift then?
Yeah, if you just flick that light switch, see where it says shaft lights?
Yeah. Off.
Yeah, just have a look at it. Those ropes are where you're going to lose fingers, so don't go anywhere near that. This is the top of the lift car. Here we go.
Oh, it's wow. Wow. Oh my god. Wow. So that, wait, is that going all the way to the bottom?
Get out to floor 1.
Floor 1? Is that where we started off?
Yeah.
Wow.
On our way down, look.
This is inside of International Lift Equipment Control Panel. There's the position. I guess maybe International Lift Equipment maybe owns the MG.
So have a look down there. That's the lift down the bottom. Fancy outside in that?
I saw the doors open.
Did you?
Yeah.
Good eyesight. Crikey, you can barely see the lift. Alright?
The pointing it down the shaft makes my camera lose focus. It's going up now.
It's coming back up now. Let's hope it stops.
So just watch your hand.
Yeah.
That's 2.5 meters a second.
Right.
It's only going to be 13.
Really?
Yeah.
Right.
You feel like the lift as well.
They all start off and stop at the same rate.
Right.
So once you're up to speed, you wouldn't notice the difference.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Go near them, and that would stop all the abseiling dead.
Oh, they're protected.
Yeah. So they're protected. We're going down to 16, Ben.
Oh, 16.
Yeah.
So both of these panels are working?
Yeah, they're kind of parallel.
Yes,
Apart from one of the buttons that drop down the lift shaft.
90s express buttons connected to ILE.
Floor
I
16.
think we're going to have to get. They've only got one predator,
Yeah.
which is eagle owls.
Doors
And if you get
Oh,
a
really?
dummy eagle owl and stick that in a corner, they don't like that. Controls panel in it. I don't know if
Yeah,
you're aware you've got ILE and Leicester controls.
Leicester controls.
And this has got a Hollister Whitney pancake motor on it. So it's still a permanent magnet motor, it's just a different format. It's an American motor and it's ugly, but it does the job. So what happens here is it's a drive manufacturer called Magnatech, an American company.
Yeah.
They've got UK offices in where are they now? Bedford. And they have drives that they need to test the software on. So there's a guy comes here, tests it on the lift, and then overnight in America they'll make any changes they need to, so he can come back the next day and test it again.
Yeah.
So it's quite an efficient process. But they never believe him when he says it's not doing what they said it should be doing.
Yeah.
Well, they've got little test rigs. Most places have got little test rigs where they try out the stuff, but there's no beating putting on a real lift.
I guess this might be one of the tallest in the world.
It's certainly the tallest in Europe.
Yeah.
I think.
I think the tallest in the world is in China.
Yeah, well they're throwing them up
But
and trying to like.
they're testing a 10 metre a second lift in
Yeah.
China.
Yeah. Yeah, there's like the number 4 lift company and the number 7 lift company, and they have. Do you ever go to the lift exhibitions?
No.
There's one every 2 years in
Where is that?
Excel.
Oh, in London?
Yeah.
Oh, right.
It won't be this year. It'll be next year.
Okay.
That's interesting to go and have a wander around there. All the normal sort of suspects are there. There's also a massive one in Germany every couple of years as well.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
assuming this is for the industry rather than for...
You can turn up.
Right.
Yeah, turn up, buy a ticket, and go in and have a look around.
Yeah. I guess people can buy around just because they want to make money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you'll get people like Eiley there and Leicester there and Otis. Well, you don't get Otis, but you'll get Vita and quite a few of the major players. At one of those same place they have Comic Con and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's turn this light off.
Original second generation express
we've
buttons.
got an indicator panel ready to go on here actually.
What floor 10?
Got one here.
Doors
What's
closing.
that?
Got to change that.
What floor 10? 10?
Yeah, 10.
Doors opening. Going down.
Still in action, those buttons.
Yeah, I think it's 8 that's broken.
Going down.
So, I mean, all the other floors that we're missing out, are they just, like, standard?
No, there's stuff on some of them. Because it was built for testing lifts, a lot of the floors are just sort of mezzanine.
Yeah.
So it's just a balcony with a void.
Right.
And we use some of those voids for some interesting stuff.
Doors opening.
Press B, and if you notice, it's got the motor on the end, and then it's got a gearbox.
So when this has been built?
Well, the tower went up in '79, and that's an original motor,
Oh, okay.
but they go forever. Quite often when they refurbish lifts, they leave the motors and change the control systems,
Right.
and tart up the car.
Yeah.
But they'll quite often leave the motors because the motors run. So this is, yeah, it's a motor and a gearbox, and what that means is you've got a lot of friction. You've got friction in the gearbox.
Yeah.
So when a lift sets off, there's a sequence of events that happens. I'm sure you know. It energises the motor, so it's puts a holding current on the motor, lifts the brake. So at that point, the control system and drive have got control of the motor,
Yeah.
and the brake is let go, and then it moves the lift off.
Yes.
Because it doesn't want to drive through the brake. They want to lift the brake and then move off. So there's a bit of a balancing act, and it changes depending on how many people you've got in the lift car.
Yeah.
Because you've got counterweight in the lift car, and then you've got a variation in weight based on how many people get in it. So if you ever notice, sometimes you get in lifts, and it will drop before it goes up. And what's happening is it's lifting the brake, but it's not got the control quite right. So it will drop a little bit. They call it rollback.
Yeah.
Now you'll get that on lifts that don't have gearboxes, typically.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't have that friction in the gearbox to hold it just for that moment before it pulls away. So in the industry, there's quite a big thing about how to prevent rollback, or actually it pulling away before it should. if it's underloaded, with clever tricks in the software and trying to load weighing is one thing as well. The high-speed lift's got load weighing on it, so it measures the weight of the car, feeds that back to the control system, and then it knows how much current to apply to the motor to hold, lift the brake, and then move away. So you're trying to, this ride quality, they're always trying to improve the ride quality, and that's what they compete on, is features and functionality of the control system, but also about ride quality.
Yeah.
Ride quality is largely down to the drive. It's also down to the mechanics. You've got rollers, you know, T-section guides in the lift shaft, and they'll have rollers on, or they'll have shoes on lower speed ones.
Yes. I know Express Lift logic was sort of, it used relays, which is an enormous cabinet full of AND gates, where basically a small voltage current powers an electromagnet which operates a switch of a larger voltage.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you still have power relays. You still have power relays on lifts. But that's kind of pretty much how a transistor works these days.
Yeah.
Is you have a low voltage closing a gate to, you know, make a larger power circuit. So yeah, what we're doing here is we will, you know, in a panel, people will have to fit a new piece of equipment into the panel and understand how to wire it in. We can set up faults on the lift so that people have got to go and find them. We also do health and safety training. So this is a dangerous lift because it should be guarded. All of this should be covered over. Holes in the floor, if someone's working below, you can kick screwdrivers through and brain them. All sorts of things in here. So I've had, you know, something hanging from here, an old syringe in the corner, an oily rag and a petrol can, and they've got to identify all these risks. But we also do first aid. So a lot of first aid courses are all done in a classroom, and you do all of your CPR and wound dressings and all of that, you know, in a kind of nice warm office. Well, what we do here is we get people sprawled out across the top of the motor, or on top of the lift car, or in the pit. Have you ever been in the lift pit of a?
I haven't been in a lift pit.
We'll go and have a look at the lift pit for the high speed.
Is that underneath where the lift?
Yeah.
Okay, brilliant.
Yeah, so what you have in a lift shaft, you have to have enough headroom so that if the lift carries on past where it should have stopped, it's got enough room to stop before it comes up through the floor in the motor room.
Yeah.
And that has happened.
Yeah.
People have got it wrong and it's just come crushing up through. But also on the bottom, you have to have enough room at the bottom for it to shoot past the bottom floor.
Yeah.
And there's buffers, there's hydraulic buffers, so that if the car, not that it's dropping at 1,000,000 miles an hour, it's travelling at a normal speed, but for some reason it hasn't stopped at the ground floor, there's a buffer that will hit like you get on the front of trains.
Yes.
And that is tuned to the right mass and speed of the lift, so that the people inside stop at a humanly acceptable rate.
Yeah.
And they're not just kind of, you know, squashed. The pit.
Doors open. Going down.
It's great fun putting up a Christmas tree during the week.
I took
Going
literally a Christmas
down.
tree as being a tree.
And you see the pine needles everywhere.
So they're just standard bulbs, are they, or is it?
No, they're bloody expensive LED. They talk to each other and flash.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Amazing. And the gentleman who took us up to the top said that they come on at 4 o'clock. Is that right?
Yeah, maybe 3:15.
Okay.
I'm not sure what I set the timer to now. I can't remember.
One.
Okay.
That's why it's really complicated. It's doing. So you've got a milling machine, pillar drill, lathe. There's a welding bay around the corner.
I remember these from CDT.
What's CVT?
Oh, it's design technology.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. For the counterweight. One set for the counterweight, one set for the lift. And that's the counterweight there. And if you notice, it's got a prop on it, because what we've had to do, when we take the ropes off the top of the motor, you've got to support the weight of the counterweight and the lift car. So the lift car is hanging from the top on some strops, and the counterweight is propped from the bottom. And that means we can safely take the ropes off the motor without everything falling down the lift shaft. It's roped 2 to 1, which is why you've got a pulley down here. I don't know if you're aware, pulley systems, you've got, you know, 2 to 1, you've got pulleys on here on top of the counterweight and on top of the lift car. So this is what they call a, actually that's not why this pulley's here. This is so that there's some tension in these ropes so that they don't slap around.
Yeah.
And also it slides up and down a bit, as and when there's inertia in the system. So this is the buffer I was talking about.
Yeah, I saw that.
She what?
The feathers, the remains from the peregrines. So how long have you been working here then?
5 years.
Floor 1. Doors opening.
This is the Express Tower in Northampton.